Hello, friends, and welcome to another live edition of Syracuse Sports. It's the decision you've all been waiting for. We have progress on who will be kicker number one for the Syracuse Football Orange. We actually do have that. We actually do have info on the kickers. We got to watch special teams today. But no, of course, you're all here to talk quarterbacks. Steve Angeli has defeated Rickie Collins Jr. for now and will be the starter at quarterback against Tennessee on August the 30th. He will face Joey Aguilar, who won the quarterback competition for Tennessee. So two new quarterbacks in the modern era who both came into their respective schools after spring practice. Joey Aguilar was at UCLA. Steve Angeli was at Notre Dame. He's now at Syracuse. Joey's now at Tennessee, and they will face off in the season opener on August 30th. You got Brent Axe, you got Chris Carlson, you got Javon Edmonds. We got the whole band out here tonight to talk QB1. Our Syracuse Sports Insiders had a lot to say about this today. As you can imagine, we're going to get to your great texts and questions on this coming up a little bit later on. We'll focus on the quarterbacks for most of the discussion, but a couple other things that we will note on that we have learned at Syracuse football training camp is camp is coming to an end this week, and we're getting ready to hyper focus in on that season opening matchup between Syracuse and Tennessee. Chris, you and I have I would say a small plate of crow to eat. We both predicted Rickie Collins would win this job on Thursday, but reiterating and emphasizing, this was close, and it really was. This was not coach speak. From everything I have heard and seen, and we have discussed on this pod, and you and I have discussed on this pod, Javon, this was truly a close race. So I don't think Angeli or Collins winning the job, respectively, would be a surprise. But when it did settle in on Steve Angeli, and now everything we've heard today, and both Javon and Chris have stories up on this on syracuse.com. I have a column up on this on syracuse.com that I hope you guys can check out. Javon, let me start with you. Having been through all the practices, all the discussion, going back to spring, Rickie, you know, what does Fran say on the radio? He's riding with Rickie. Rickie's his guy. Trevor Pena has the public comments, which Fran Brown responds to, but they bring in Angeli to compete for the job to where we are right now as Steve Angeli is QB1. How you taking in this news? What's your immediate reactions?
I think Syracuse went with the safe pick. I think the mindset was rather safe than sorry. It comes down to Steve Angeli had 73 more passing attempts in his college career than Rickie Collins. Simple and plain. It pretty much came down to his command of the offense and his command of the huddle. And you need game experience for that. So that's just where it went with Rickie. And Steve, not surprised by the outcome. I will say it'll be interesting to see if the offense ever gets stale, because I think we all agree that Rickie is the more talented player. Once the offense, if and when, the offense goes stale, do thoughts start creeping in of making a change? Because it's not like Angeli's some big shot taker, So if the offense ever goes stale, does Syracuse go right back to the drawing board and start contemplating it's time for Rickie?
Well, that's the thing, Chris. They didn't have to worry about that last year. Kyle McCord went the distance. Kyle McCord was QB1 from the minute he stepped on campus. He never had to look over at that sideline and be worried that someone was coming in for him, even when he threw 5 interceptions against Pittsburgh. Yes, Kyle McCord did have a couple bad moments, bad games last year in a record-setting, unbelievable season, right? I think Javon hits on one of the more interesting points here. And this is what I wrote about today. Steve Angeli's the quarterback for now, but if it truly was that close of a race, when he hits some adversity, which frankly could come in game 1 against Tennessee, when do the questions come from everybody about whether they made the right choice?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, right? Outside waiting for practice today. It's like, what's the over-under on the number of times we have to ask, did you consider playing the other guy this season? Like, that is going to be given how close it is, that is going to be a very natural question. Whenever they run into, any sort of sluggishness. Now Fran did say, we asked him, is there a plan to play Rickie against Tennessee, given how close it was, and sort of allow the competition to play out over the course of the regular season? And Fran did say, like, no, we got to pick our quarterback, and that's our guy. So I certainly don't think that at the first sign of struggle, we're going to start seeing flip-flopping. They're going to stick with the decision, I think, for a little while, but it's going to be a natural question throughout the year, given the schedule that they are facing.
Speaking of Fran Brown, met with the media as he has been on Mondays throughout camp. A good timing after he told the quarterbacks this morning. I'm sure he contemplated and made the decision at some point on Sunday, but everybody was in the room. Steve, Rickie, Fran Brown delivered the news. Here's what Fran Brown told us about why he made Steve Angeli QB.
I'm back and forth trying to see what was best. It just came down to a little bit of operation. Just being able to run the operation the best, and we felt he just had a little bit of a nod over him. But it was extremely hard. Like, I was up for a long time just trying to figure this out. This wasn't just like it'd have been easier if it was a no-brainer, but it was a complete battle. So.
Here's Fran Brown on the other side of things. How did Rickie Collins take the news that he did not win the job?
Rickie one play away from being in the game. Rickie's a good player. It was really, really close. So when it's close, it gives you as a coach a sense of, okay, if something happens and he has to go in, then we're fine because of how close the battle was. So, that's something that was great for us to see as a staff, knowing that both of those guys are that close. It makes you just coach with a little bit of confidence, a little bit of freedom, understand if something happens to him, the next guy will be just as good to be able to go in and help us be able to win games.
And one more from Fran Brown here, also on Rickie Collins.
Man. He said, all right, I'm going to keep working. He want to help Steve be the best version of himself. I talked to them about what happened with the quarterbacks last year. We felt as though Mike Johnson did a really, really good job. And he helped Kyle a lot. They watched film a lot. They met together on their own a lot. He told him what he saw when he came off the field. So, he wants to do that. Rickie's all about helping us win.
That's Fran Brown on why Angeli is QB1 and Rickie Collins is QB2. Javon, we've talked about this a lot on the pod. And Chris, you've heard the reaction through camp. But Javon, I want to turn to you on this because once again, what we heard, don't take this as a knock on Steve Angeli. This is just what we hear time and time again from people. Why did Steve Angeli win the job? Operation, huddle, composure, leadership. What we don't hear, at least initially, the first things that people say about Angeli is, dude's got a cannon or a physical trait of his game, right? They are leaning heavily on the experience, the comfort, the composure, the leadership, and all those intangibles that quarterbacks bring, which I think speaks to what you said. And again, it's not a knock when you've got Tennessee as your opening game. You got Clemson in the opening month, and he's just got that much more experience. It feels like a safer pick to go with somebody who's been there and done that just a little bit more than the other guy who every time Rickie Collins comes up, coaches, players' reaction, what you hear from them is the physical tools, the arm, the mobility, and that was always the buckets they were put in throughout camp.
So I do want to throw this comment in there because I feel like I've neglected to say this throughout this whole process. Although Rickie has all of the tools only mean so much and take you so far. Because I remember a certain person that used to wear number 15 in Gainesville with all the tools in the world and still hasn't been able to put it together for the Indianapolis Colts, right? So at some point, operation and how you actually perform under center has to come into play. The thing is, we have not heard that Rickie played bad, played poorly whatsoever, right? I think at this point, it is what Fran said. It's just, Rickie's got to be the best backup he can be, help Steve however he can, and just be ready in case his number is called. From what we heard from Miles White, Rickie is still in their plans for the future. They're very excited about what he can become. And I agreed with Miles when he was talking about, like, listen, guys don't have to play right away. That doesn't always help. Now, does Rickie want to hear that after already sitting for 2 years? Probably not.
And maybe another one.
And maybe another one
if he stays at Syracuse.
And this is that, this is the era of the portal where if you don't want to wait, guess what? You don't have to. So there's so many layers to it where, okay, Rickie's more talented. Steve might be more ready. But at the same time, Rickie's your future and not Steve. But he's only got one more year than Steve. But you've still got to work to keep Rickie so that you can have your future. There's a lot to it. And the more I think about it, the more I understand why coaches are getting out of college sports, because it is giving me a headache.
Well, I mean, look at it this way, guys. Rickie Collins is now one of the most expensive backup quarterbacks in whatever frame you want to put it, the ACC, I don't know, the country. I mean, this is a guy that got upwards of $1 million when you add in what he's being paid by Syracuse, what he'll get from the rev share, whatever sponsorship opportunities are there, right? That's an expensive backup quarterback. And now Steve Angeli is going to enjoy the fruits of that NIL labor as the starter and what will come from him there. And now you start to think about, is the clock ticking on Rickie Collins going back in the portal? He's going to get on the field. I feel very comfortable in saying, particularly in that Colgate game coming up on Friday, September 12th, happens to be Uncle Brent's birthday, by the way. Everybody write that down. Okay. He's going to play against Colgate. Like, I feel very confident. And this is not a Kyle McCord situation last year where Steve Angeli's going all the way. So
I
can you do enough? Go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I do think that a lot of the talk about Angeli's intangibles is what differentiates him from Rickie and what could potentially give him the edge versus that's all he has to provide. Like, he is a talented thrower. Like, we're not looking at Greg.
Yeah, I don't want to come across.
We're not looking at Greg Paulus.
Yeah, he can throw the ball,
right?
Yeah, he can sling it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just sticks out to me that that's not the first thing people say about him. Right?
I've had a couple people complain
says,
to me.
Yeah.
I've had a couple people complain to me that, like, oh, you're really minimizing the guy's talent. No, he's a talented thrower.
Very talented thrower.
It's just his physical skills don't jump out the way that Rickie's doing.
He can't throw a 75-yard non-route like Rickie Collins can. That's all.
But you don't throw too many of those in a game. So
you don't. Exactly. You're lucky if you get 2 in a season.
You live and die in the intermediate game, the short game, moving the sticks. As much as we romanticize some of those throws Kyle McCord made last year, and he made some great throws, it was mostly what we're talking about here. But he did it with a zip and an authority, and you were just wowed by the arm. The arm talent always came up very early in the conversation. It just hasn't with Angeli. But yeah, make no mistake about it. Angeli can throw the football here.
He's not a noodler. He's not a noodler.
When Fran went through the numbers, okay, because that's something Fran told us last week. He talked about the leadership. Who does the team gravitate towards, right? So Steve wins that because I wish I could see, that everybody makes like that checklist, like Steve, Rickie, who gets the check marks and who doesn't. But when you look at the numbers, one thing I've heard, guys, and we've only seen a limited amount of 11 on 11 in camp. Well, some things I've heard from the scrimmages, if we're getting down to the nitty gritty, and this is truly a close race, Rickie has thrown more picks than Steve Angeli. So if you're looking for something, I'm not saying this is why they made the decision. Fran laid it out for us tonight. But if Rickie's throwing some more picks and you don't want to turn the ball over as much, you go with the player who statistically, he's only thrown 1 interception in all those reps that he's gotten, has command of the offense, everything we're saying here. And let me go with the guy who's a little bit less of a risk there. But it begs the question, and Javon, I'll throw this over to you. Would it not? Because now we get into the 2 quarterbacks equal none discussion. But would it or not behoove Jeff Nixon to have a Rickie Collins package in the offense? And I'm not just talking about for Colgate. I'm talking about there are things he does that Angeli doesn't or does better than Angeli that you can mix him in there and it can work. I don't know, because I feel like once you name QB1, he's QB1 until he's not. But given everything we've talked about here, frankly, including what you're paying him, do you have to find ways to get him on the field?
I don't think so. I think the way you find him a way to get him on the field is you blow teams out and let him come in relief. But that whole package stuff, I watched enough of Quincy Patterson doing it at Temple. I've seen it around the country. I can't stand it. It never works. It's a dead giveaway what you're about to do. If you ask me, it's insulting to the guy's passing ability whenever you do stuff like that. And no, there doesn't have to be a package in that aspect.
And he's
for
still a
Rickie Collins.
thrower.
Yes,
like Collins is still a thrower.
Yes, that's the thing. If you want him on the field, you want him passing the ball. If you want him on the field, go blow someone out, and he can come in like that. I want to touch on the interception part real quick though, because it presents a challenge when you're talking about guys like Rickie, where it's like, all right, a game manager might prevent you from losing a game, but they won't go win you a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you play a defense that's going to be as good as people say Tennessee is, as good as I anticipate Clemson and Notre Dame to be, checking down might only get you so far. You might find yourself down 28-10 because you can't do anything explosive. And the question becomes, as a coach, it's like, do I risk the turnovers with a guy like Rickie? Because I know at some point he can extend plays with his legs and provide a little spark there, or do you just keep playing it safe, right? So I really think the quarterback conversation comes down to the games like that. If Miami ever gets their stuff together, that should be a talented defense. Those types of games are when you're going to have the Steve versus Rickie conversations, but against the UConns and the Colgates and the SMUs, the Georgia Techs, I don't anticipate us asking too much that you consider putting Rickie in. But when you play those teams, Manny Diaz is defensively minded down at Duke. Belichick's defensively minded down at UNC. When you play those teams, that's when you're going to get more of a feel for, are we going to start having conversations about, is it time to start making at least some adjustments as to the snap count in the percentage for the quarterback?
Well, that's what I'm fascinated about, Javon, because that schedule does not let up. There's not a lot of the Colgates in the world. UConn won 9 games last year and made a bowl game. Like everybody's just assuming like UConn's, that could be a game that Syracuse has to flat out win. I'm just, you never know. Like
they have to win it.
Weird stuff happens in college football in game 2 at home. Like I think Syracuse is going to win, but to just assume Rickie's going to get out there, I don't know. I wouldn't say that at this point. If I had to bet money on it, yes, I think Rickie's going to play against UConn, but there's not a lot of games like that. And then you get Clemson, and then you get SMU, and then it just goes down the line where one quarterback has to take command of this thing and stay in command of it. If he slips, everybody's looking at that sideline for the moment that they could make a change in this whole thing. Here's another thing I was thinking about, guys. For all of the talk of what LaQuinn Allen did last year, and he was spectacular, Syracuse was 125th in the country running the football. Will they run the football a little bit more to support Steve Angeli? I mean, we know what this offense is all about and what Jeff Nixon wants to do. And whoever won the job has a spectacular room of wide receivers. And we heard from Miles White tonight, the new wide receiver coach for Syracuse. Jonte Cook has emerged as a weapon. Justice Ross Simmons told you, Chris, he thinks he's going for 1,000 yards this year. He was pretty confident in that. Darrell Gill Jr. never drops the ball. Great veteran presence. We forget about Amari Hatcher, who's going to get on the field. He was injured all of spring, and they really like him. Jalen Hornsby's working his way up. Obviously, Demetrius Samuel is a weapon. I'm not sure about the tight end. Dan Villari, I'm sorry, has to prove he's a down in, down out catching tight end. And I don't want to compare him to OG because that's unfair, but that's the role you're taking on this year. So that's where I think Angeli, let's talk about his arm strength and the things that maybe fall behind in the conversation. No matter who won this job, guys, and Chris, I'll turn to you on this, they've got weapons, and they have an offensive line that's bigger and seems to be coming together. We're going to hear from Dale Williams at some point this week on that, but at the very least, you got to feel good about whoever the quarterback was and what they have to work with.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things TJ Ferguson mentioned when I talked to him, and Syracuse went a little bit more this way late last year, but he talked about we're going to do a lot of downhill running, right? That seems like you've seen Willis's strength. The offensive line is bigger. So I certainly think that is going to be, a bigger part of the Syracuse offense, and they're going to hope that will neutralize some of the pass rush, on Angeli, because like the formula that they used with Kyle McCord last year, where everybody knew they were going to throw the ball virtually every play, and it was up to him to like find the open guys. Like, I don't think that works with Angeli as the quarterback. Like, I think they're going to need to be a more balanced offense. But you're right there. And I think Villari fits into that pretty good because he is sort of, he's more physical than Jamie Tremble, who I know we all like as a sort of a wide receiver at the receiving option, but Villari gives them a more powerful guy on the line. I think that's part of why they like him there. So, I think that is the direction they're going on offense. It's going to be a much more balanced room. I don't know, some of the wide receiver expectations might need to be tempered because they're not going to throw it quite so often. If guys all think they're going to, catch 1,000 yards, that might change a little bit.
I don't think that would be the issue at all, though. There's talent in that room, as we've talked about here in the pod. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just balance. It's just balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here's what I'd say to what we're discussing right now in terms of the receiver production, but also you've got to get better on the run game, right? Brent, you mentioned they're bigger up front. Steve Angeli is your starter, and you're talking to me about command, understanding of the playbook, and control of the huddle, right? I need to see Syracuse under center this season. Then I do not want to see Yasin Willis get an outside zone out of shotgun, right? You got bigger guys up front, and you want to be downhill running. Put Angeli under center. David Clement's a good blocking tight end, from what we're told, right? Go 2 tight ends with him and Villari. Get under center and run downhill. Fran Brown Jr. got switched to fullback, right? Use a fullback. Get under center. Run the ball. Be hard. No, probably not. But I mean, Chris.
I would love it. Yeah.
Sorry, Freddie. We did find out he's going to get on the field, but I don't know about fullback.
But if be hard nosed. Run the football. Don't do this cute new age stuff that doesn't work. Get under center. And then Angeli's such the smart guy that he is. Let me see him in the bootleg. Let me see Daryl Gill use his speed out of play action. Let me see Jonte Cook use his speed and route running out of play action. Let me see Justice Ross Simmons and Mari Hatcher go get the ball out of play action because they've got a one-on-one. You want to find some balance, and you want to make sure everything. You want to see the run game improve, but you want to keep the receivers happy. I want to see Syracuse under center, not in pistol. That doesn't count. Single back, I formation. Go wing T if you have to. I want to see them under center this season.
Now, it's the scrimmage. They're at a point of camp where it's still annoying that you only see yourself for an entire camp. They can't even have joint practices right now in college football. Hopefully that'll change soon, thanks to Fran and Deion Sanders. But I did hear from the scrimmage as well. Malachi James lit up that scrimmage, had a couple huge runs. The Syracuse Instagram account showed a touchdown run of Yasin breaking out and getting, I think it was like a 25, 30-yard touchdown run. They are running the football better in camp right now. What you said, Javon, makes a ton of sense, though. Balance it out, put him under center, use the running game. One of the big assets of, not that LaQuinn Allen didn't do it last year. I'm thinking of UNLV, runs over a dude to win a game. When he had to run the football, he could. But LaQuinn's greatest asset, and he's showing it with the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, and why he's going to stick on that roster, is his pass catching ability. He's a versatile talent, right? So I think we could see Syracuse lean a little bit more that way. But when Javon, you hit on it. When all we're hearing about is composure, knowledge of the offense, commanding the huddle, been there, done that. Like Angeli, I don't want to compare him to what McCord did last year because that's unfair. But if that's your offense and that's why Steve won the job, that's the offense he's going to have to run. But you can't be 125th in the country running the football again. Like, that's one of those stats you look at, you're like, yeah, you got away with that last year. I don't know if you can do that again this year, especially in some of the tough defensive matchups they're going to get into on the road. You got to run the football on the road to win games.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to reiterate what you said. So we'll move the show along versus letting me just repeat you.
I have breaking news, gentlemen. The kickers exist. For the first time in camp, we saw the kickers kick footballs, right?
We saw a lot today, actually.
We did. We saw a lot of practice
today was good. Today
was a good day of practice for us reporter types. Fran Brown, I asked him about it afterwards. He said that Trip Woody is making some grounds. He's pushing Jaden O for that kicking spot. So, gentlemen, fill in anything I'm missing here. But Jaden O. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I mean, to me, the thing, like Woody's leg did not look good to us in the spring, right?
It did not.
And we saw him kick a 56-yarder. Now, granted, no rush or minimal rush, but
he can get it there.
That's better than that's more leg than I thought he had. So that was a positive to me. And like you said, Fran said he got the better of Jaden, at least in the scrimmage on Saturday.
So O hit from 4, and they were moving him around. Fran was causing chaos. Line up, kick it, like they were testing these guys. But O hit from 45. 33 and 42. He missed from 50. You mentioned it, Chris. Trip Woody, 55 yards. Got it there with no trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Also hit from 49 yards, right? So they did not name the kicker as they named the quarterback today. I think Jaden O, and Fran mentioned he's doing well on kickoffs, and that gives him an edge. And you kind of go back and forth who's better at what. I think Jaden O is going to be out there against Tennessee, but Trip Woody is right there. And as you noted, Chris, showed me a lot more today, and frankly, I've only seen him once.
Oh, he was a big worry. Like his leg was a big worry coming out after the spring game.
We saw more in the spring, and I walked away saying, I don't know about that guy. Yeah, he's a young guy. He's a freshman who transferred in from Iowa, who brings in a lot of great kickers. But I'll put it to you this way, Javon. I walked out of there today feeling a lot better about the kicker situation than I did walking in, having not seen him.
Oh, so I hear you on that. I'm going to be a little pessimistic here. I've got a little bit of concern with the special teams. Protection might be better. Tackling they're hoping is better. All that jazz. That's cool. I want to focus in on the specialists. What do you mean Ethan Stengel is kicking Franny's ass, long snapping punts, but Franny's better at snapping field goals? Look what happened to being a complete package. Maybe this is me, being a product of Baltimore, where I watch Morgan Cox, be the best long snapper in the NFL for a decade. But what do you mean he can do the punts, but not the field goals? Two different long snappers concerns me. And then with the kickers, in terms of technique, fellas, correct me if I'm wrong here. The wind was not blowing strong today.
Fair, was it?
Right? Yeah. Okay. So why did I see two kickers both go wide left? That's telling me something about technique right there. And the ball was getting rehashed and everything, boom, 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 whatever. But I saw two kickers miss wide left, and I'm pretty sure it's from the same hash. So I'm concerned about the technique being taught on special teams right now. I don't like when I see two kickers do the same thing, and I don't like when a long snapper is only half a long snapper, for lack of a better phrase. That concerns me.
Last year, part of the issue in the special teams at the top of the list on the concern for special teams was block kicks, timing, right? That's snapping. That's everything's got to be in sync. Jack Stonehouse and Ethan Stengel are roommates. They work together all the time. They're in sync. So is Fran Brown almost just trying to find somewhere to put Franny on the field? Franny's been everywhere. He came in as a linebacker. We've heard he's at fullback. Now he's snapping on field goals, and Fran said he's got that down. So, we'll see. We've got to trust that he can do that. But I think that is a fair point to make here. Why are we switching things around when you have somebody who's more than capable of doing it? And last year, you had an issue there. I think what you need to look for on special teams is as much consistency as you can get. And right now, the most stable thing they have is Jack Stonehouse. At least that's not an issue at this point. He's out there hitting scoreboards at the scrimmage on Saturday.
Yeah, and on that note, again, I don't want to hear Jaden O's the better kickoff guy and Trip Woody's the better field goal guy. Develop these guys into the full package. I don't want to hear Stengel and Franny have to do two different. No, Stengel needs to be out there field goal and punt. He needs to be good at both. Whoever your starting kicker is, he needs to be good at kicking the field goal and kicking the kickoff. So I've got concern on that end with special.
And we heard, Chris, you and I looked at each other when Fran said this name. We saw him at practice earlier. Dave Jacobs, former Syracuse kicker, who ran a shop on Marshall Street for a long time. People are going to be surprised when they come back to campus this year, and that shop is no longer there. Dave Jacobs has gone into semi-retirement, I think. He just wanted to wrap things up, and Shirt World is no longer on Marshall Street. But former Syracuse kicker Dave Jacobs was working with Franny on that, was working with the kickers a little bit. And that's what you wonder with Ricky Brumfeld. There's a difference between a overall special teams coach and working on the whole thing and working on the kicking technique that Javon was talking about a moment ago. So I feel better about it. Don't get me wrong, because I finally got to see it and I saw the distance needed, mind you, without wind and a full rush, as you said. But I'll take what I can get, given that there was a big concern coming out of the spring about what was there at that position and what happened last year. They went through 3 kickers last year, and the guy that was the most stable couldn't come back because of the eligibility issue that Jackson Kennedy went through.
I have lowered my temperature. I get Javon's point, but I have lowered my temperature from thinking the kicking game will be a disaster to like moderate concern. Like I don't know. I don't know what it'll look like. I don't know if it'll be good, but like I'm not convinced it'll be bad, which is where I was coming out of the spring game.
Gentlemen, any closing thoughts? I'm going to kick these guys out in a second here and turn it over to our Syracuse Sports Insiders, who had a lot to say about the quarterback decision and a couple other things that we've been texting you guys about. But any closing thoughts from the quarterback decision and anything we've heard in the past few days covering this team?
I'm just ready for some live football, man. Week 0 is here.
Same.
I think it's a travesty that a classic rivalry game like Farmageddon is going to be played in Ireland. But, you know, I don't make the decisions. I'm just ready for some football. I'm ready for Friday to come, Friday, August 29th to come. And Chris and I and Scott Shield are on the plane to Atlanta. And football is officially back. I'm just excited.
I'm going to go Austin Collins was healthy today, you know, given their lack of center depth and the fact that he'd missed some practices. I thought that was a good sign. And Brent, while we did not get the quarterback situation right the last time we did the pod, we did guess that Demetrius Samuels was not accurately charting his 50-50 offense-defense splits. Fran did not want to disagree too strongly with his star freshman's assessment, but I think he's been playing a little bit more defense, and there's been a little bit more to focus on defense than we were led to believe.
Once in a while, we do get it right, like a broken clock, right? We're right at least twice a day, and and Fran, even when you asked about it, said he's our starting cornerback, as if to say, I can't split his reps 50-50.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You said 60-40. Yeah.
60-40 maybe, and even that's a little,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be betting on
it's
that.
closer to the truth. Yeah.
And thank you for bringing up Austin Collins out of the green jersey, and his left foot was not as wrapped up as it's been recently. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Maybe you spotted one or two that I didn't. But out of the first scrimmage, there was definitely more green jerseys out there.
There were less.
Today, I didn't see anybody added to the list. There's no green jerseys out there.
Yep.
So good news coming out of the second scrimmage is that no owies, as Dino Babers, our old friend, used to say for Syracuse football. So good news on that front.
And guys just had to get used to getting hit again. That's all. 8 months off. You got to get used to it.
Gentlemen, thank you. Great job covering all this. Please check out Chris and Javon's stories up on syracuse.com on all of our football coverage, but of course, with a focus on the quarterbacks today. We will talk to you next time on the pod, guys. Stick around in the audience because I'm going to turn it over to our Syracuse Sports Insiders and their great comments here shortly. But gentlemen, thank you, and we'll do this again soon for sure.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Brent.
Thank you, Javon. Thank you, Chris. And now we turn it over to our Syracuse Sports Insiders. And being a Syracuse Sports Insider means that you get direct text message access to me anytime. What do you want Chris, Javon, and I to ask the Syracuse football players and coaches? Breaking news. You get it first. When we walk off the practice field from training camp, the first thing we've been doing is sending you our texts, our videos, our observations from Syracuse football training camp. It's just $3.99 a month to be a Syracuse Sports Insider, but you can try it free for 2 weeks. It's right there on your screen if you're watching on YouTube, but it's joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. Very easy to sign up, very easy to do that free trial and see if you would like to join our growing community of some of the more passionate Syracuse football and basketball fans. Okay. It's hyper focus on football right now, but any basketball news that comes up, all things Syracuse sports, you guys get it as Syracuse Sports Insiders. And here's what you had to say about the quarterback decision, starting with Randy, who says, actually, no, that's not the one I wanted to show there. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second here, ladies and gentlemen. I need to find the right thing here. All right, here we go. Unfortunately, you're not going to see these on the screen, but I will read off our Syracuse Sports Insiders here and what they had to say, because my little thing that's supposed to load up so you can see it on the screen isn't working properly, but I can read them to you right now. Technical difficulties. But Chris K says this: no issues from me. With the schedule they have, you go with the guy who has played in big games, and he thinks that Rickie Collins is going to get out there today or this year as well. Matt G says this: I agree with the quote, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one, saying in the NFL. In college, everyone is still developing, and that extra motivation can only help the other quarterback be better. There's been so many years that multiple quarterbacks are needed to win. Prime example, he goes with Tua and Jalen Hurts at Alabama. Michael M., his way too early prediction. Angeli does well. Rickie and Jakari leave in December. Luke Carney is the uncontested backup next year and the quarterback of the future. From Will, who says this: this was the outcome I'd been hoping for and had been assuming would materialize. I've been worried and disappointed if they had gone the other way. So he likes that Angeli's going to lead the way, and then Collins comes in if needed. They obviously weren't confident enough to roll with Collins, which is why they brought in Angeli to begin with. Now, Javon brought this up a minute ago before we get back to some of your comments here. Trevor Pena brought this up in camp. It came up in camp that he had some concerns about Rickie Collins and his arm and being the guy. And that's something that Fran Brown was not shy about addressing in spring ball, coming out of spring ball when he gave Rickie the vote of confidence, gave him the starting job, but still brought in Angeli to compete. Because let's not forget, Steve was brought in because Rickie Collins got hurt at the end of spring ball, did not play in the spring game, had a UCL hand injury, which he seems to be completely recovered from. But they needed more competition in that room, regardless of the injury. And I think they would have done that regardless of the injury as well. Trevor Pena was looking out for Trevor Pena. And Trevor Pena is now at a team that is ranked in the top 5 in the country. Some have him number 1 in the country. I don't. But Penn State's right up there in a lot of the top 25s. And he gets to play with Drew Aller at Penn State instead of now Steve Angeli. Will he regret that? And Trevor Pena has been essentially replaced by Jonte Cook, who just continues to light up camp. Jonte Cook made a one-handed catch out there in practice today, guys. There's some video of it out there on social media, which just shows you the playmaker and the weapon he's going to be. Also is going to be returning punts for this team as well. So just wanted to note that. A couple more from our insiders here, including Brian, who says Angeli is stability, but Jeff Nixon could mix Rickie in as a wild card and truly utilize both quarterback strengths. If anyone could pull that off, it's Jeff Nixon. Mark B says this: I thought it would be Angeli to start the season. I think the coaches look at the Tennessee game as a playoff game. Turning to Angeli to start means the coaches really want to get a win in that first game. Hypotheticals are what they are, but you do have to wonder. And from the questions I wish I asked Fran Brown department, and maybe I still can at some point here, how would things be different if, say, Colgate was your first game? Do you let Steve and Rickie battle it out? Mind you, it is Colgate, but do you let them battle it out on the field? Or do you have to do all the procedures that you did today, no matter who the first opponent is? But how much is the fact that Tennessee is your opening opponent lead to, we need a quarterback, we need a game plan, we need to do this now, right? As opposed to if you opened up against either a UConn or a Colgate and you can let them battle it out on the field. I still think they would have done this. I still think a team needs to know who their quarterback is, and you've got to give them the reps with the first team. But, one of those things to think about. A couple more from our Syracuse Sports Insiders, including Nathan M., who says this: whatever it was, I agree with your take that Collins was QB1 out of spring, and Angeli had to come take the job from him. Whatever Fran needed to see, he saw it, and I'm glad to see them going into week 1 committed to a starter instead of being wishy-washy, as we were just discussing there. James A. says, I don't think that Angeli is a safer choice, air quotes. Having a leader that's capable of running the offense is more important than somebody that's physically gifted. Fran says it all the time, nothing means more than the S. From Arvin, who says, no surprise to go with the experience on the big stage against a big opponent. Looks like both coaches went the same direction, speaking about Tennessee, named Joey Aguilar, their quarterback. It would not surprise me to see Collins split time against Colgate and UConn. And a couple more from our great Syracuse Sports Insiders, including Dave C., who says, in the era we're in with easy portal exits to retain eligibility and NIL, I wonder if Collins will stick around. I suspect he'll get his chances this season, but some guys just don't want to wait, and I'm sure he's already received inquiries from other programs, probably has. Daniel says, makes sense to me what they did. A rough start from Rickie might have wrecked his confidence. Steve is better equipped to handle adversity, and with the schedule out of the gate, let's face it, they're likely to face some adversity. From Maddie S., who says this, the QB news is not surprising to me, honestly. They had to see something in camp that compelled them to find someone else in the portal. Injury aside, this seemed to be the choice that was coming. We still may see Collins play this season, and we'll close it out with Jim B., not that Jim B., who says, I thought that Collins would be the better choice only because of his style, and he can run, but I'm not sure how our offense will be with all the new players. So the thing we've been talking about all camp, the question is answered, and now the Syracuse barrels towards that opener against Tennessee. They know who QB1 is. Maybe Rickie Collins gives you more options in the playbook, but Steve Angeli seems to know the playbook better, which is, you got to give him props for that, coming in after spring ball, absorbing it, coming into the system, and being able to continue what Jeff Nixon and company wants to do with this offense. Slightly better at this point than Rickie Collins Jr. But make no mistake about it, folks, this was close. And I do think Rickie Collins gets on the field one way or the other this season. We are not going to see a repeat of what we saw last year with Kyle McCord, the first Syracuse quarterback that went start to finish without either being replaced by injury or performance since Ryan Nassib in 2012. Eric Dungy did start every game in 2018, but remember, he had to leave the field a couple of times due to injury. So now that that's settled, we can focus in on that, the weapons around him, and what this offense will be with Steve Angeli as QB1. The issue has been settled, but more of camp to come, more reporting from us on the finish of training camp. And then, of course, we'll put it into hyper-focus game day mode and get you ready for that opener against Tennessee. Thanks to our great insight from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. All the info on your screen right there on how you can join to get direct text message access to me anytime with your thoughts, your opinions, your questions, your comments. Just want to shoot the breeze and talk SU sports. You can do it anytime as a Syracuse Sports Insider. That's going to do it for this edition of Syracuse Sports. Thanks to Chris and Javon. Thanks to you guys for hanging out and watching. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Our Syracuse Sports Insiders get live notification when we're going live, as we do on Facebook and other places. But you can always watch and listen on demand on your time. More live pods to come as training camp wraps up. We're going to get you ready for that Tennessee game. And here we go, baby. We're back in the hamster wheel, ready to crank it up again with football season. As Javon said earlier, I'm just ready for some real football. I think you are too, and we're getting ever closer to that. Thanks for hanging tonight, guys. Have a great rest of your week. We'll hit you again here soon on Syracuse Sports.